Hi folks, this is Aaron Anderson coming at you from Peace, Love, and Hippiness. This story is about my father using the criminal justice system to manipulate and control my life for whatever purpose he had in mind. Anyway, me and my newlywed wife came to Georgia from San Diego. We drove straight through. It was a 33-hour trip, basically, maybe 34 hours with stops. So we had been up for a good, probably 48 hours, and then we made it home on, late Saturday night, I believe, and we got 5 hours of sleep. And then we woke up and took my mom to church. And it was a great service. And then we took my mom out for a late dinner after we went around the city of Atlanta. And we got home a little bit later than expected. But by the time we showed up at home, my dad was drunk. And the spaghetti that he had fixed for dinner, which we had forgot he was even making dinner, because I wanted to take my new wife out and my mom and have a nice dinner at our favorite Mexican restaurant in town. So anyway, Dad was drunk and he took Mom upstairs and started yelling at her, and heard some noises, and my wife was down there and I was with her downstairs as Dad was yelling and screaming at my mother, and my mom was trying to get him to stop whatever he was doing. And my new wife at the time started crying and asking me to go back to California. However, in the past 48 hours, we had only had 5 hours of sleep or less. And we were extremely mentally exhausted and drained. And so Dad comes down all drunk. And I start yelling at him because he's drunk, and his drunkenness and unstableness, and, his also, I've always felt he could get violent at any moment due to his instability and being drunk. And I think he was upstairs basically, getting violent with my mother. And, I was very upset about how he was dishonoring the women in this house, and like he had for many, many years. So anyway, I yelled and screamed at him for a while for being a terrible dad and frightening my new wife, which we had just made it home. My dad cared nothing about my life or my new wife or making a good impression. He was drunk and yelling and being belligerent, and I put him in his place. And after a while, Dad snuck out to go snuck out. I thought he was leaving, probably drunk driving to go get more alcohol or something. So things kind of toned down, and I went out back, and then I came in because I heard the rough pounding at the front door, and I go and I look, and there's like 5 sheriffs standing outside. And I let them in, and Dad was there, and 4 male sheriffs stood with me out on the front porch, talking to me, and we were kind of laughing, and I told a few jokes, and told the sheriffs what had went on, how he upset my wife, and my dad was being kind of aggressive and verbally abusive. And anyway, there was one female sheriff in talking with Mom and Dad. Well, with the way the 4 sheriffs were sounding outside, I thought things were gonna, be resolved, and, maybe they'll make my drunk dad go to bed, or I could leave because I hadn't been drinking, and I don't believe in drinking. But anyway, turns out the lady sheriff comes out and puts me in handcuffs. From what I find out later on, my dad convinces my mom into some crazy story and to collaborate with him. And I don't know how they worked that out with the sheriff on the inside, but Dad had no respect for me or my new wife or, having a good life. Instead, they took me to jail, and I was facing 2 felony charges, terroristic threats and aggravated assault. And I literally ended up staying in jail for like 2.5 months, and I gotten a public defender because I didn't have the money to hire our family a lawyer, Paul Liston. Great lawyer, by the way. If you have the money, please hire him. And even Paul Liston came and visited me in jail and said, well, if your dad would go to the DA and just tell him, hey, look, this was a drunk argument, and, Dad was the one who started it. He would just apologize to the DA and say, look, as a family member, please drop the charges on my son. He would have done that. But however, Dad had his own purposes in mind of why I should stay in jail, and supposedly he was working with the DA to somehow get me into a mental hospital bed, which I don't understand that. But honestly, I feel like my dad is mentally ill. Even the VA hospital says he's clinically depressed, and he drinks his brain away with alcohol. So I personally don't know why he's thinking what he's thinking for what purposes. But I was sitting in jail receiving plea deal after plea deal, and basically there was no physical evidence. There was no property damage. There was nothing but conjecture. So, I wanted to, stay in jail and fight it and go to trial, and I thought it would have been a lot speedier than it was. But come to find out, they only have felony calendar trials once a year. And I was still about 9 months away from the felony calendar trial. I think they do that on purpose just to get people to plea out to plea deals. So, after 2.5 months in jail and turning down plea deal after plea deal, I finally accepted to reduce both of those felonies to misdemeanor disorderly conduct or something of that nature. And basically I felt like my father, William Anderson, had sold me out and stabbed me in the back, and he was the one who was being drunk and confrontational and argumentative and not respecting that I just barely had a few hours of sleep after driving all the way across the country with my new wife. But anyway, that started the downfall of me and my wife's relationship. But my dad doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's a narcissistic psychopath, and his brain has been killed from alcohol, unfortunately. But my dad had the chance to not turn me into a criminal by saying it was just a family argument. There's no physical damage. I did not confront anyone with violence. There was no property damage. There was literally nothing. But, please comment below. Tell me, would you have stayed in jail another 9 months? I accepted 2 misdemeanors and 2 years of probation and a fine. Unfortunately, that's what poor people have to do sometimes, is accept plea deals, even when they might have been the victim. Thanks for listening.